Captain America Complete Comic Series Part 2. At some point after this, Nick Fury asked Captain America for a favor. He and a number of other superheroes including Spider-Man, Daredevil, Wolverine, Luke Cage and the Black Widow were asked to travel to Latveria to help Fury overthrow the government of Lucia von Bardas, whom be discovered to be financing a number of technologically based supercriminals in the United States. Recognizing the potential terrorist ramifications of such an act, Fury decided to eliminate the threat despite being told to leave it alone by the American president unbeknownst to the assembled hero. Fury planned to make an example of von Bardas and brought down Castle Doom onto the city below, killing an untold number of people. Knowing that the superheroes could never condone such an action, he had the previous 2 days' activities erased from their minds. Months later, while undergoing some tests for SHIELD, this block in the captain's memory was discovered and removed, prompting Captain America to have words with Fury. On the year anniversary of their attack on Latveria, the heroes are all attacked by an army of technology-wielding supercriminals, led by von Bardas, who survived their attack, although not without becoming horribly disfigured in the process. She synced up all of the criminals' armors, creating a chain reaction which acted like a giant bomb in an attempt to get back at Fury and the heroes and destroy New York City in the process. She nearly succeeded except for the last-second interference of Daisy Johnson, a superpowered SHIELD agent loyal to Nick Fury, who managed to defeat von Bardas before she could detonate her bomb. On a day that would become the darkest in Avengers history, the Scarlet Witch suffered a breakdown that, combined with her powers, had catastrophic consequences. Cap had recently had a strange encounter with Wanda, as well as the beginnings of romance, and was struck hard by the devastation of the team, which disbanded shortly thereafter. In future events, Rogers moved into the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn, revealed his identity to the world, although he lived in a SHIELD safe house, and resumed his off-and-on relationship with Sharon Carter. Cap was among those heroes present at the raft when Electro instigated a jailbreak. The next day, he spoke with Tony Stark, and convinced him to help form the new Avengers. Most of those present during the jailbreak were founding members of the team. The new SHIELD director, Maria Hill, was opposed to their incorporation, but Rogers reminded her that he had full champion license, that is, he was authorized by SHIELD to assemble any team he deemed necessary for any mission he deemed necessary, and therefore did not need her permission. The new Avengers embarked on several missions under his leadership. Meanwhile, Cap had also been dealing with more personal matters. Having been made a special SHIELD operative, Rogers, Sharon Carter, and Nick Fury began an investigation into Alexander Lukin and his powerful Cronus Corporation. After the apparent assassination of the Red Skull, Lukin was in possession of the Cosmic Cube, but he also had a more personal weapon, the Winter Soldier, a revived Bucky Barnes, a KGB assassin who had been occasionally let out of suspended animation to perform only the most difficult missions. The Winter Soldier encountered Sharon Carter, who believed that he was the real Bucky. Cap at first refused to believe it until Fury presented him with solid evidence. Winter Soldier killed Jack Monroe and caused major devastation in Philadelphia before Cap, the Falcon, and Agent Carter stormed a hidden underground base operated by Lukin. Cap and Winter Soldier dueled, and the latter showed no sign of memory. Cap used the Cosmic Cube to restore his memory. Bucky then destroyed the cube and it teleported him to Camp Lehigh, where he began to cope with his past. Months later, Cap and Sharon tracked Bucky to a small Midwestern town that was actually controlled by AIM. Distracted by storming the AIM compound and battling Crossbones and Cynthia Schmidt, they were unable to catch up with him. When S.H.I.E.L.D. suggested the Superhuman Registration Act, Commander Hill ordered Rogers and the Avengers to help enforce it. When he refused, Hill had her trained superhuman restraint unit to attack him during the scuffle. Rogers avoided being tranquilized and managed to escape by lodging his shield in an aircraft and forcing the pilot to fly him to safety soon after. At the Baxter Building, the Watcher told the heroes who had gathered there about Cap's escape. He became the leader of the resistance to the Registration Act, fearing that the freedom of America's heroes and the safety of their families were in danger. Adopting the alias Brett Hendrick, a mall security guard to avoid government detection, Rogers became more and more extreme in his desire to win the Civil War. 11 He allowed the Punisher to join his secret Avengers, and worked, albeit reluctantly, with the Kingpin since his old friend Iron Man was leading the pro-registration superhero unit. Their rivalry was especially bitter. The two attempted to meet twice during the conflict, but each time it devolved into combat. They even refused to attend the wedding of Black Panther and Storm together. Cap was nearly captured by Paladin, but escaped with the aid of Shang-Chi and the Heroes for Hire. 81 In the final battle against the pro-registration forces, Rogers' teammate the Vision disabled Iron Man's armor, evening the odds for Cap and allowing him to ultimately defeat Stark in Times Square. However, a crowd of civilians approached in support of Stark. Realizing that his fight against the Registration Act was endangering the people that he was trying to protect, he surrendered to Iron Man. He then gave his followers the order to stand down. Following his surrender, Steve Rogers was indicted on several criminal charges. It was noted S.H.I.E.L.D. had restrained Steve with strength dampeners, while he was in custody. A successful assassination was orchestrated by the resurgent Red Skull, which involved Crossbones deployed as a sniper. He fired the first shot, hitting Captain America in the back as he entered a federal courthouse to stand trial for his criminal charges. In addition, Dr. Faustus, posing as a S.H.I.E.L.D. psychiatrist, had manipulated Sharon Carter and implanted in her mind a hypnotic suggestion that caused her to shoot Rogers 3 times in the stomach and chest. In the chaos that ensued, Rogers was taken to a hospital, where he succumbed to his wounds. Captain America was given a state funeral, but the body in his memorial at Arlington was a fake. Immediately after his death, Rogers' body was taken to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters as the only perfect super soldier specimen in the world. Inexplicably, his body was discovered to have withered back to its original frail state. Tony Stark, accompanied by Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, returned Steve Rogers' body to the Arctic, where they had found him frozen in ice. Namor also attended the small private ceremony, swearing that as long as he ruled the seas, no one would disturb Captain America's rest. Many people mourned him, including various heroes that knew him. Others, such as reformed Winter Soldier James Buchanan Barnes and Wolverine, swore to avenge his death. Before the day of his assassination, Rogers prepared a package to be delivered to Stark in the event that he would not survive. It contained a photo of himself as Captain America and Bucky in World War II, and his final requests, that Stark save Bucky, and that the mantle of Captain America should continue. A S.H.I.E.L.D. agent presented it to Stark, confirming that it was delivered by an unknown attorney. 85. Thor communicated with Steve Rogers' spirit on the first anniversary of his death. Though Thor vowed to avenge him in full, Rogers declined, saying that their world was already too stained with the taint of death and violence. Thor granted Steve a minute of silence, by using his powers to cut off all the electronic media in America for exactly 60 seconds. It was later discovered that, while his body was killed, Roger's essence was locked into a fixed point in space and time. Roger's mind was being transported through time, forcing him to relive certain segments of his life such as World War II and becoming Captain America as well in various other scenes. Some changes were revealed to what was previously known, see notes below. While reliving the Kree-Skrull War, he was able to ask the Vision to record a message about his time travel condition to Mr. Fantastic and Wasp, Henry Pym, in the future, which was duly relayed by the current Vision, Jonas. 87 With this data, Richards concluded that Sharon was the key to bringing Steve out of time, although they were too late to stop Dr. Doom and Arnim Zola from doing just that. However, the Red Skull was now in control of Steve's body. Barnes and Rogers fought to drive the Red Skull from his body and succeeded in doing so. Rogers considered retirement from the role and allowed Barnes to continue operating as Captain America, thinking that there should not be two formal active Captain Americas. Rogers visited the current U.S. President who gave Captain America, not Steve Rogers specifically, a full pardon for his actions during the Civil War. Rogers explained that he didn't intend to resume wielding the shield, but would if asked. The President mentioned that this was fine, as he had another idea for Steve's services in the future. With his own house in order, Rogers set about the next great task, removing Norman Osborn, current head of American National Security Agency HAMMER, from power. Rogers soon came to assist in bringing back Tony Stark, who was in a vegetative state, having diminished his intelligence to erase the superhuman registration database to keep Osborn from abusing it. To do so, Rogers and his associates resorted to a quite radical step in rebooting Stark's brain, channeling Thor's thunder through Rogers' shield connected to the implant on Stark's chest, a move which could very well have killed him. The process restarted Tony's heart, but for some reason his mind didn't reboot. Steve left to get Doctor Strange's help in going inside Tony's mind. Following this, Steve was in the New Avengers hideout in New York when he learned that Osborn was laying siege to Asgard. Enraged, Steve assembled the New Avengers, the Young Avengers, and Nick Fury's Secret Warriors to provide support for the Asgardians and finally bring down Osborn. Bucky gave Steve the shield, saying that they needed him leading the counterattack. Bucky told Steve that he needed the shield in the fight against the Dark Avengers. Steve took the shield but asked Bucky what he would do, to which Bucky replied, "I will do what I do," holding a large gun in his hands. Before they left, Edwin Jarvis gave Steve a briefcase for Tony Stark. After the defeat of Osborn and his followers, Steve Rogers was called to the White House, where the President offered to make him the new head of security of the United States. Steve agreed on the condition that he would get to do the job his way. The Superhuman Registration Act was repealed and, during a gathering at Avenger Tower, Steve appeared and told them it was the start of a new day for all of them and he needed their help. Steve oversaw the incarceration of Norman Osborn at the Raft Penitentiary, under his new role as Captain Steve Rogers. As the head of Nixton Pharmaceutics and grandson of Abraham Erskine, Jacob Erskine set out to cure cancer using the super soldier serum, but was killed before he could finish 93. When Steve attempted to find who killed Erskine, he was caught in a trap by Mocky Nesmith and his serum was deactivated through the help of one of Machinasmith's robots who Steve previously believed to be a woman imbued with the serum, he was able to have his serum activated once again, and together they pursued Machinesmith. They eventually seemingly killed Machinesmith and recovered the serum he was attempting to auction, at the cost of the robot's life. Upon further investigation, the serum Steve recovered turns out to be completely useless, and unbeknownst to him, the entire exploit was set up by Aloysius Thorndrake of the Shadow Council, who sought Roger's blood in order to create an army of super soldiers.